The SEC, as we know, is in the process of doing their new scheduling format. It sounds like, much to my chagrin, I wanted to just see the division stay as they are, move Alabama and Auburn to the east, Missouri to the west. But sounds like they're going to do a 1 opponent and 7 rotating, or 3 permanent and 6 rotating, something like that. Is there any chance in that scenario that Tennessee and Georgia is going to be a stay an annual game, or is that over?
Well, one, I think we're going 3-6 instead of 1-7 format because of the money, and they have to increase the value of their television package with ESPN. 9 SEC games is worth more than 8 SEC games. So, yeah, that means we're going to see 3 non-conference games instead of 4, which I'll miss, which I think kind of hurts the SEC a little bit because they're going to beat each other up even more. And now we're going to a playoff where there's more games. So start with that. I think we are going to see the 3-6. And I'm with you. Here's the question. What's the one Tennessee rivalry that you absolutely think they will keep no matter what? What's the one team?
I guess Alabama. Yeah.
Okay. So if we start with that premise, then probably not. Because is it really fair to ask Tennessee to play Alabama and Georgia every year? Now, if you're Alabama, everybody just wants to, by the way, everybody. And here's the other thing. Hey, y'all can't all have Vanderbilt as an annual opponent. Now, I know everybody wants to play Vanderbilt and go to Nashville every other year and take over their stadium and get wins y'all can't have Vanderbilt. I think Tennessee is going to be the team that hits the lottery. And one of the 3 teams, I think Tennessee will play Vanderbilt. Sankey mentioned the length of rivalries and the proximity is some of the priorities. Now, I think he was, selling oil to the people out west that are coming in, letting them know that, don't worry, Texas and Oklahoma, you'll get to all play each other in Missouri and Arkansas and some other crappy team from the west. We're not going to ask you to play Alabama every year like Tennessee's done forever and has derailed how many of their seasons over the years recently under the Saban era. But if you're going to ask Tennessee to play Alabama every year, then I don't think you're going to ask them to play. I do think you're going to see Tennessee play Alabama, Vanderbilt, and I think Kentucky. I think Kentucky is the other team. Kentucky's got to play somebody, Hook. I mean, nobody wants to play them. It's cold up there. The stadium's small, and it's a basketball school. You don't recruit the state. Nobody wants to play Kentucky. But somebody's got to play Kentucky. And just working around the other schools like Georgia, for example, because what I'm hearing from the Georgia fans is, we really like Auburn. Well, Georgia's the opponent that's not going to go away is Florida. That's going to be their automatic game. Now, are you going to ask Georgia to play Florida and Auburn? You might say, well, yeah, that's cool enough, but let's switch over to Auburn now. Are we going to ask Auburn to play Alabama and Georgia every year? If we're not going to ask Tennessee to do that, it doesn't seem likely to me or fair to me that you would ask Auburn to do that unless they got a piece of that Vandy pie, I guess. But I would say more unlikely than likely for the reasons that I outlined in part of the quotient that I shared with you. I think it's more unlikely than likely that Georgia and Tennessee continue to play every year. Unfortunately, because I think it's a great rivalry because of their border states. Tennessee recruits Atlanta heavily. Kirby just does not like Tennessee. Like that's really a thing with him. He's just all bristly that week of the Tennessee. It's not like some warm special rivalry that's, like the Jacksonville has its own hall. No, it's not that. Like they don't like Tennessee, period. And Tennessee really doesn't like Georgia, period. There's nothing warm and cozy about it other than the geographical proximity.
No, you're right. I think it's one of the most underrated rivalries in all of college football. Because when you talk about Tennessee, they've got like 15 rivals, and Alabama, you talk about them being one. But I think Georgia's right there. Why doesn't Kirby? Let me let you go. I've kept you too long.
He never beat him.
I hate that.
He never beat him as a player.
Simple as that.
Kirby, you got to understand Kirby, man. This guy, first of all, all these coaches are ruthless. All of them. They have to be. It's part of the job description to be ruthless. But with Kirby, it's like he operates like a predator in the wild. If he's hungry, he eats. Here's how you answer. What's Kirby going to say? Does it help him win a championship? Yes or no? Check which box. No, then this is what he's doing. Does it help him win a championship? Yes, then that's what he's doing. Other than a little bit of golf and on an ornery streak, he's still pissed off. Like Every morning I said he eats glass on his cereal for breakfast. The guy is constantly consternated and upset, and it's never good enough. Nakobe Dean, the Butkus Award winner last year, Philadelphia Eagles draft pick last year, was telling the story about how his sophomore year he was out there. And Nakobe Dean is a 5-star recruit of engineering student. I mean, he's everything you could want in a student athlete. And Kirby comes over to him, puts his hand on his shoulder pad, says, "Pretty tough day today. Were you up late last night? Understand you had, yeah, coach, man, I had a test this morning. You know, it was Kirby goes, it's good. It's good. Hey, Nakobe, nobody cares. All right. Make the assignment. That was a motto for nobody cares. Like nobody cares. I don't want to hear what your problems are. I don't want to understand why you may be having a bad. Nobody cares. And that is what it takes. And it's out with the old. And Stetson Bennett, the greatest part of this, not the greatest, but one of the most interesting parts of the Stetson Bennett story that nobody in Georgia talks about and Hollywood wants to overlook is after last year's national championship game, Stetson went on Good Morning America. This is Georgia. And he's the hero. I mean, my goodness, what a rags to riches story to go from walk-on in 2017 to junior college transfer to Mississippi in 2018. He gets the 11th hour phone call in 29. He thinks he's going to go play for Billy Napier in Louisiana, but George said, wait, we may have 2019. He gets that 11th hour call on signing day. They got nobody else to back up Jake Fromm. Justin Fields is transferred. They can't sign anybody else. So let's call old Stetson. He was good in Rose Bowl practices. He's still hanging out there. So Georgia gives him that scholarship because they got to have somebody to back up Jake. Then they bring in Jamie Newman from Wake Forest to be their quarterback. Well, him and Monken don't see eye to eye. So they get a second transfer in 3 months, JT Daniels. This is Monken's guy, but the knee's not cleared for the opener. They start Dwan Mathis, the kid that had brain surgery, who was an Ohio State quarterback who flipped when Fields transferred, and he can't get it done in the first quarter. So I guess we'll throw Stetson out there, and Stetson lights it up. And Stetson starts winning games, and Stetson's beating Alabama 24-20 at halftime in Tuscaloosa in 2020, that team with Devontae Smith and Waddle, while Waddle's still healthy. Stetson's beating him but then the clock strikes midnight. He throws some picks. They lose in the second half. He gets injured against Florida. It's JT Daniels' time. He rings the bell. 7 wins in a row. High returning quarterback, QBR record. Everything's going great. He gets hurt. Brings Stetson back, and he wins the 2021 title. And you're going, what a great story. Kirby's on line 1. Caleb Williams. So Betson goes on national television the day after the national championship game on Good Morning America, and they say, Stetson, are you going to keep playing? A lot of people says, I'm going to play somewhere, and I'm paraphrasing. It depends on if I can trust these coaches, whether I come back. Right. We didn't know what he was talking about. Trust these coaches. What are you talking about? What he was talking about was he knew that Georgia was trying to get Caleb Williams. Well, they couldn't. USC paid more. He went out west. He followed his coach. So this story, and then Kirby Smart, 7 months later, Dave, he's standing in front of the room in Birmingham telling us he is the most disrespected great player in the country. Remember, all you media people,
and then staff.
And then they were trying to get rid. And then all the SEC network people, is he in your? Oh yeah, he's in my top 5. Is he in your top 5? Yeah, Kirby says he. Yeah, so he's in my top 5. He really? So where do you have? Well, he's in my top 5. Now nobody wants to be on record is not liking Stetson Bennett because Kirby has put the edict out at SEC Media Days that this guy's been dogged by the media and mistrust. Well, coach, you tried to get another quarterback after last season, and now you're telling us that we don't respect him enough? So Stetson at the parade this year, he's like, yeah, y'all doubted us, y'all. And I did a radio show, and I'm not going to use the language on this show that I did on that one, but Dave, it was one of those mornings, and Dave knows how I can get because we traveled together, and when both of us are having a bad day, it's really ugly. One of us having a bad day, the other one can usually compensate. But I was having a bad day, and the guy goes, well, Mike, after all the way the media is treating Stetson and how hard. And I said, Bull, you know what? He's all, I said, the media sent Stetson Bennett to New York City. There's 940 or 50 Heisman votes, Dave. What are there, 40 or 50 Heisman winners alive? The other 900 are media people that voted Stetson Bennett one of the top 4 players in the country. He wasn't even first-team All-SEC, according to the coaches, not the media. The SEC coaches have Hendon Hooker as the first-team All-SEC quarterback. So I don't want to hear that the media was bad to Stetson. The media sent Stet to New York City. So, but again, I'm in Kirby's world down here. We all live in it, and the perceptions are controlled by the kingmaker. But the reality, if anybody would stop to think about this, so that's whenever they do the movie, or I hope somebody calls me, because I know how convenient, this theme could be, that, this Rudy on steroids, but that's really not how it is. The raw truth is so much more fascinating and really more reflective of what Stetson, how resilient he's had to be to overcome this system that really is not set up for a guy like him to do what he's done. And you'll never see it again. You just won't. Not because there won't be anybody as good as Stetson, because I can tell you 10 quarterbacks right now that are, but because of the circumstances that enabled it to happen. So I know that's not what you called for this morning, but that was the tangent I went off on.
I love it. It was good stuff. Baseball season starts today for the Vols, and Mike's throwing high heat. So I absolutely love it. I do. Let me get you out of here with this, because we do have to wrap up. But was he on your Heisman ballot? He was not on mine.
Well, what was everybody saying? Is he in my top 5? He was in my top 5.
So he wasn't on your ballot.
But he was in my top 5.
He wasn't on your ballot. He wasn't on mine either.
I'll tell you who I voted number 1. The guy that I voted number 1 didn't go to New York. I voted Bryce Young. I thought Bryce Young was the best quarterback in the country.
I did too. I didn't think it was close.
But he lost 2 games, and that was last year's flavor. So I guess we're supposed to just ignore that. Against Tennessee, dude drops a ball at the 20-yard line that would have given him a much easier. Then his field goal kicker misses. Then his D coordinator lets Tennessee drive like 40 yards in 12 seconds. That was not a Bryce Young loss. Then against LSU, Brian Kelly, who, man, what a great job he did. He doesn't get nearly enough credit. But Brian Kelly's got a chance to go for 2, and we're going, man, this would be a ballsy call. Well, not really, Dave. And I know you've coached Little League just like I have. And rule number 1, never let the other team's best player beat you. And Brian Kelly's sitting out there, and as much as he doesn't want to go for 2, if he can keep Bryce Young off the field, that's what he's going to do. That's why he went for 2. He ain't giving Bryce Young another chance to beat him. He goes for 2, and they beat. Once again, not a Bryce Young loss, in my opinion. So I love this guy. I don't know what he's going to do in the league hook. He's awful small. They're all small. Nowadays with these running quarterbacks, I think they all have shorter shelf lives. This guy looks like a more refined version of Tua to me. He moves really well. He throws really well. If you've ever interviewed him, he's extremely his dad is a psychologist. This kid is thinking 4 levels. That's why Saban, about 2 years in, just realized, I don't need to yell at this guy. I'm not getting anywhere yelling with this kid. I'm not helping him. I don't need to yell at Bryce Young to motivate him. I mean, he is really he's like on that Mr. Spock level. When you talk to Bryce Young, the wheels are moving fast. You see him processing on the field. And then the quickness is amazing. Sooner or later, they all get caught up with. Sooner or later, they all get hit. Even Tim Tebow went down. I don't know what his shelf life is, but I think he's probably the number 1 pick in the draft as well.